things that I have prayed and just would give anything to see in 5 years, I've seen it now in 4 weeks. By day 2 of life, Luke started to go into a coma. The first 6 months of Luke's life were very traumatic, to say the least. He was in the hospital every week. We would get out for a couple days and be back. His pneumonia was just never really managed. For 6 months, he stayed at a brain damaging level. Every time I would see a doctor, they just pick one diagnosis to fixate on. So Luke has been given a diagnosis of CPS1, he's had a liver transplant, metabolic stroke, cerebral palsy from the stroke, and we also got an autism diagnosis. There were many nights that I would stay up crying, thinking, what can I do for him? Because I feel like everything I'm doing here is not working. Dr. Crawford takes us back, and he was looking over Luke, talking to him. He didn't treat Luke like any of his diagnosis, not one of them. He was looking at Luke to treat Luke what works best for him. This is a place of miracles. So before, I could never get Luke to dress himself. And the other morning I had his clothes laid out for him, and I was in the bathroom getting ready, and I walked back into the bedroom and he had already gotten himself dressed. He was completely nonverbal from the stroke, so never said a word, but he has started to talk. I was like, you get to go to clinic today and see all your friends. And I was like, are you ready to go now? And he said, yeah. And now he's trying, every night he's trying to sound out words. He actually sits at night and in bed and wants me to read to him. He's never done that before. He was not ever using utensils. And I've made videos of him since being here of eating his first cup of ice cream, literally from Chick-fil-A, because he can do it now. I just have so much hope for Luke's future, and just seeing the things that he's done in 4 weeks. I can't imagine what it's going to look like for him when we get home and we're doing home care. Who knows, maybe a year from now I will be sending y'all T-ball pictures and whatever he wants to do.
You're doing awesome, dude.
This place is restoring health, restoring hope to families, and truly changing lives, not only of the patients, but of the families as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Esmeralda Garcia. I'm the promotora for CBIRT, Center for Brain Injury and Research and Training. And I love what I do. I basically work with parents one-on-one who have kids that have had brain injuries. I'm a caregiver myself, so I'll tell you a little bit about my nephew Angel later. But yeah, that's just part of my role. I'm here to talk about the study that we're doing in Texas to learn more about brain injury. And a little bit about the work that I do as a promotora.
My name is Melaney Grenz, and I'm a speech pathologist by trade. I worked in Oregon Public Schools for 29 years, and I've been on the Oregon Traumatic Brain Injury team for many years, 3 decades. After 29 years, I took over as project manager at the Center on Brain Injury Research and Training through the University of Oregon. And so my job is to oversee all the Oregon school TBI teams, and I'm also the Texas school liaison. So that's what I do. Okay, just a little disclaimer, folks. This is not legal advice. We are just here to give you our opinion, and we're bringing you materials, and they're provided just to support local programs. So we started a program called TBI SOS for Kids through the CBIRT, Center on Brain Injury Research and Training. And what we do with that program is we train school staff to identify and assist TBI students, enhance community TBI knowledge, support families with caring and advocating for their child from early childhood through 18 years of age. We also link schools, families, and communities to TBI resources via a digital platform. So we'll be sharing that with you later. We have a tab just especially for Texas. Okay, there's many leading causes of brain injury, and you are abundantly aware of that because you're here today. So 55% of brain injuries are caused by falls. Objects from stairs and bicycles. We know our littles are prone to more falls, and certainly our geriatrics as well. There's unintentional blunt trauma, so that's about 24% of our population, caused by being hit in the head with an object like a baseball or a soccer ball. And then car accidents, that's the big one too. And then the assault. So that's the #1 cause of TBI-related death in children younger than 4. So if you've heard about shaken baby syndrome, now called abusive head trauma, that is one of our leading causes of brain injury. So there, as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of risks with our littles. They're a very high risk level, and the most common causes are that shaken baby, the motor delays, the falls, and how many of you have had your babies fall from anywhere, right? It's just very, very, very common. The risk level lowers at elementary 5 to 10 with their bicycle crashes, playground accidents et al. And then the middle school it increases, but look at our high school. Imagine that, right? The motor vehicle accidents, contact sports, risk taking, and again, boys are 2 to 1 times more prevalent to sustain a brain injury. You know, secondary to that, higher participation in sports and risk taking. So there's types of brain injuries, and I'm just going to give you the quick overview, the 101 of TBI. There's the penetrating, where the skull is impacted, something has impaled them, and then non-penetrating. Focal injury, that's where just one specific side of the brain is affected, right? And then diffuses, that's where all parts of the brain are affected, and that damage is severe. I'll be speaking about concussions in a second, but that hematomas, if we've had the non-penetrating and then the hematoma develops, so there's bleeding on the brain and then the swelling, so you might have that burr hole surgery for the student or the child after. The contusions, the swelling of the brain, and then the skull fractures. The big one I see, because I've worked at high schools for years, are the contra coup injuries. And you see that in football, right? The head-to-head, they smash helmets and then they fall back on the turf. So there's that diffuse injury throughout the brain and extensive damage, very scary. So we always say there's no mild brain injury, they're all serious. We take them all very seriously. So the big one I see when I work in Oregon Public Schools and Texas schools are concussions. And I want to speak to that just for a little bit. So that is, well, okay, I said mild. It's not mild, but it really is just a mild. It's caused by a bump or a blow or a jolt to the head that makes that head move kind of rapidly. It can happen without a loss of consciousness. When I played soccer, I sustained 2 concussions. The first one, I had no symptoms. The second concussion, oh my, did I have symptoms. So my balance was off. My vision was a little blurry. I couldn't focus. Lights like this really bothered me. It was hard to pay attention. So I was happy that my symptoms abated after about 6 weeks. So sometimes we don't have symptoms after a concussion that go away. And then we've got issues that we need to address in the schools. But I really want to state that there's every concussion we take seriously, any brain injury, but you're 4 to 6 times greater after 1 to sustain another concussion, and 8 times higher after 2 concussions. So think about some of our athletes that brag about having 20 concussions. Well, they don't brag, but they divulge that to us. 20 concussions. What does that do to a developing brain, right? I'm working with a little girl right now in Oregon. She is in the 2nd grade this fall. She sustained her 7th concussion last year. Here's how it happened, the 7th one. She was just chatting with her little friends in her class. She was kind of wobbling on her feet. She fell back and grazed the back of her neck on the side of her desk. She fell, just grazed it. Fell to the ground, lost consciousness, reconcussed. So the brain is not healed from the other concussions. So again, we want to heal that brain. We always want parents to report or schools to report those concussions. We take them all very seriously, and rest after a concussion. So just quickly too, we don't want kids to be in a dark room for 2 weeks after concussion. Okay, we call that cocooning. That doesn't help. If you sprained your ankle and laid in bed for 2 weeks, your ankle wouldn't be better after 2 weeks, okay? So we want to get that brain moving. About 48 hours after concussion, we want rest, no screen time, okay, and then get back gradually. We call it return to school. There's a gradual return to school, okay? But yeah, that rest and recovery is the key to prevention. And then in your schools, we want those safety plans in place for our students after sustaining a concussion, okay? We don't want them to be reconcussed on the playground or in PE, okay? I had another student, I tell a lot of stories, sorry, I've been at this a while. Another one of my students in middle school sustained a concussion playing soccer. Came back to school. The medical diagnosis did not come back with the student. They didn't know about it. He was told to go to PE, took a basketball to the head, reconcussed. That's a problem, right? So we want that 48 hours of just no physical activity, which is really hard with our students, right? They want to play, they want to get out, get back to their sport. But I always say, let's heal that brain. I'm not opposed to contact sports. I am opposed to people that come back and play a sport when their brain is not healed. Okay, we're playing Russian roulette, right? Okay, so the symptoms of a brain injury, they are dynamic, kind of scary. So if you look over here on cognitive symptoms right off the bat, there could be some speech language challenges, certainly organizational. If you've had a concussion, right, that organization is challenging, paying attention, learning, the memory. Possibly we could have some hearing issues. If you go over to the physical side here, the slow movement, the coordination, and in my case, I had the balance that was just off. Headaches, this is the number one thing I hear from my students in the high school after concussion, these debilitating headaches, and that just won't go away or abate over time. And the balance and the fatigue, I have my students tell me, I just can't get enough sleep. And some of you, the littles too that we deal with, the preschool students, their sleep is just off and they're not themselves. They can't fall asleep, and when they do, they're falling asleep at odd times. So, and then the vision and the pain. Now, if you've got all of these symptoms on these two quadrants, that's going to trigger some anger, social skills, aggression, impulsivity, depression, possibly anxiety, irritability, mood swings, blunt emotions. Ask my husband how I am if I do not get enough sleep, right? And then your balance is off, you've got a headache. I mean, this is a vicious circle, and these are the symptoms that our students deal with. And then as I spoke about the associated conditions with TBI, that sleep and the mood and the pain. So as a school team, I work together with a school team to quickly bring folks together, and let's get that student referred out. If we have headaches that are debilitating, get them referred out to the neurologist. We don't want to live with that forever. And the balance, we can get them out to vestibular therapy et al. And folks, we really want to wrap around our families when it comes to any kind of a brain injury. That emotion, depression, anxiety, and I always say a brain injury affects the entire family. So we want to wrap around that entire family. As I spoke about the vestibular issues, the physical, and then the academics. If you've got debilitating headaches, your balance is off, you can't pay attention, your grades could drop, right? So we have a really cool online treatment recovery assistance for concussion in kids on our website, returntoschool.org. It's hyperlinked there. I will share the slides with you. Some of our teenagers do not like going to an office to see any kind of professional to talk about their concussion. It's scary. So this is a 6-module program that they can just watch on their own. That's very informative, okay? Any questions on that? Just pop in anytime. So returning to school and returning to learn are two vastly different entities, okay? We call the brain injury the invisible disability, but we want to make it visible, right? So they look the same when they return to school sometimes. They come back to school, they sit in their desk, but we could have some social challenges, learning challenges, speech language, health. These kids might need to go to the health room now and have meds dispensed, cognitive and physical issues. So these lights might be bothering, noise in the environment, an unstructured class like PE or art might just really set them off. So we want to be cognizant of that. Have any of you had any interactions with schools? Do you have school teams that wrapped around you? I'm seeing no. Okay. That's my job, okay? In Texas and Oregon. I like to bring school teams together, identify the students' needs, quickly identify accommodations and anything they need, get that into some sort of a plan. We're going to speak to that later. Okay, but what we don't want to do, especially for our concussion kids, have no accommodations in place for 6 weeks. That's a scary time. A lot can happen in 6 weeks, right? If we don't have any accommodations in place. Okay, I'm going to talk about some legal issues now. All 50 states have that return to play law, right? When you're playing a sport. So you are, all coaches and staff are abundantly aware. They're educated. They need to sign off on their training every single year, usually in July. They're abundantly aware when a student is supposed to be removed from play secondary to concussion-like symptoms, okay? And return to play when it's when they are medically cleared. So that's nailed down. But only 14 states have a return to school law, with Texas being one of them. Y'all passed a law on June 21st. It's called Senate Bill 2398, and we are so proud of you all. And Oregon could learn a lot from you. You passed that law lickety-split. So well done. So in 2011, Natasha's law was passed. This young lady went to University of Texas, San Marcos, and she was a soccer player. She sustained 4 or 5 concussions. So they created this law for her. What that did is it established a concussion management team, which I was just speaking about, that school team that comes together, multidisciplinary team. So a counselor, maybe an AT, athletic trainer, reg ed teacher, special ed teacher, whoever they deem should be on that team. So they developed a team in a school. Removal from play is in that law. Graded protocol for that return to play, gradual. You just don't go from having a concussion to be back in on your starting position. You have to, gradual return to play. Specific education and training for all healthcare professionals in a school, and statewide tracking. I can't say that enough. We need to be logging these brain injuries. If it's a concussion, we want to know when they had it, what happened, and everybody's logging it. Because as I spoke about, reconcussion is a problem, right? So Natasha's law, we thought it was a great law. Now, here's your biggie. So this law that just passed on June 21st, Senate Bill 2398, has Texas Education Agency creating a standardized list of non-medical academic accommodations for students diagnosed with concussions or other brain injuries, and it requires every school district, did you hear that? Every school district to implement clear concussion response policies to better support our students. So TEA will develop a standardized form outlining the accommodations available to students recovering from a brain injury. So making it easier for schools and families to respond effectively and consistently. So it is a law, and districts need to be following that. Okay, and that's why I'm here in the great state of Texas helping y'all out. Y'all got a lot of good systems in place. We're just helping you tweak that a little bit. So what we call that plan is an immediate temporary accommodations plan, or otherwise known as an ITAP, okay? It is in place as soon as a student has that medical diagnosis of a concussion. Your school team comes together with all your team members that you establish, and they come up with accommodations specific to the student and their needs. So it might be lessened assignments, take a test in a quiet room with a familiar adult, ability to wear sunglasses, ability to wear the hood up, maybe a note taker, whatever your student needs, knowing full well that that plan could be changed on a dime to make to accommodate. So what you need in biology might be vastly different what you need in language arts class, okay? And just that team is abundantly aware that they need to be pivoting on a dime and meeting that student's needs. And we're having a lot of success with that. Any questions on that bill? I saw some of you with your cameras out. Okay, so just know it's a law. When you go back to your schools, you may they will be abundantly aware of that as well. But a parent is a big part of that team. Just like an IEP, individualized education plan, or a 504 plan, the parent is a big part of that team. So don't forget that, okay? Any questions on that thus far? Okay, Esmeralda.
So the schools provide 3 levels of support. We start off with the ITAP, which is what Melaney just discussed. So that one is, most students will enter there, and it's just kind of like to stabilize the health and gradually make improvements while all the testing is going on. And then usually our kiddos will either end up in a 504 or an IEP, from the ITAP. But it seems like your kiddo's going through this, right? All the testing and seeing where they're at and making decisions. But Melaney made a key point that you are part of that committee. I'm very much part of our art committee. I think in Florida it's called something different. We call them art meetings. But yeah, the 504 is basically like making accommodations. Usually your kiddo stays in a general education setting, removing barriers so that they can continue learning. And then the IEP, which is what my nephew's in, it's a little bit more focused. Maybe they need a little bit more support. They can't necessarily function too well in a 504 setting. So then they move on to the IEP, which is very structured. It makes their goals like, academically. So it's a little bit different, but these are the type of supports that are in place. The main takeaway that I want you to have with this, that it is very data driven, and sometimes like we don't know it's a lot of information. What should our kiddo be on, So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but very data driven. It can constantly be changed. Your kiddo can start off in a 504 thinking that's the best setting for them, and then they end up in an IEP or so forth. So it can change. We continue to do evaluations on that. The most common ones that families are aware of are the 504s and the IEPs. So you'll see here 504, like I said, it's equal access. Usually they're still in a general education setting. And those are typically reviewed annually. In the IEP, it's specialized instruction. So like my nephew has goals on social science, reading, everything that goes in place. They use them annually for the school year, and they usually get reevaluated in 3 years. However, you don't have to wait the 3 years. Like if something has changed, we know that with brain injury, sometimes things we don't notice it until later. You can request a new art meeting to get that reevaluated. I don't think I've ever waited the full 3 years because something new has always happened in my case. So feel free, you don't have to wait. That's just when they're done unless something comes up, but you can definitely require a new evaluation. And here I have some links for you. I love this sheet. It's just accommodations and modifications checklist. So when you're getting to that process where how should the classroom be adapted and things like that, great checklist, because sometimes we don't know what to ask for. Like, wow, I didn't even think about that. So that is a really good checklist when you're getting ready for those meetings. There's also sometimes, like I said before, I don't know, should my kid have a 504 or not? I have no idea. There's free legal advice through disability rights, so you can actually contact them, and there is services for that to help you prepare for your art meeting. And this is a little cheat sheet that I created. There's a lot of acronyms and art meetings thrown your way. So I created this little cheat sheet that honestly, I have it up every time I'm at an art meeting because I'm always hearing acronyms, and then I add new acronyms to it, that I might learn. So just some really good resources for you there. And then this accommodations companion guide, it's really neat. It's just one page. So I usually recommend to parents have it readily available. It's just a one-pager. You can have it digitally or print it. But this was created by TEA, and it's a common language framework that was created so that parents, educators, they can all just speak the same language. So it basically it gives examples of what should a classroom look like, examples of after a brain injury, what accommodations you can ask for. So another really good resource for you. And then these are just various family tools and advocacy. Everything is hyperlinked, so I love resources. So the first one is just a visual schedule. I know my nephew, he's nonverbal, so they have a lot of visual schedules at school. My biggest issues at home are getting on the bus and off the bus. So I have visual schedule for that to help him, remember what he needs to do next. So there's like some free resources on visual schedules. You can also go to, usually the teachers will use visual schedules at school. So you can ask them, hey, can you print the ones that you use at school? So it's a similar setting at home. So you can definitely ask for those. The All About Me profiles. So I have a link here. This is the one that I use, and you're going to see here. I have Angel's one-page profile here, that one I created for my nephew. So you can see the one I actually built, but the template, I pulled it from this resource. So it's free resources. And since my nephew is nonverbal, and he has multiple disabilities, I have like a little set of documents that I send to anybody that works with him, doctors, teachers, and I go, hey, this is all about Angel. Let me know if you have any questions. And it's a living document. I'm always updating it. But the main thing that I try to achieve with that is he's more than just a diagnosis. You need to know what he likes, what he wants, what triggers him, what are his symptoms before a seizure, what to look for. I just don't want him to see the diagnosis and just approach him that way because everybody's different. So that was what I try to achieve with that. Everybody loves it when I send them, my little cheat sheets. They're like, we wish everybody came with a life manual like this. So it's really neat. You guys are welcome to see the one that I created for him. And then just communication apps, just to keep consistent communication with teachers. This parent advocacy tips that was developed by my former coworker and my classmate. She has kiddos with autism. Just 10 tips, and it's a really good resource, so I linked that there. And then, do you guys keep a binder or anything like documentation? Okay. So IEP binder and school contact list. I think a lot of the time, for me, I waste a lot of time just trying, who was that person I spoke to, and the contact. So at the beginning of the year, I find out who are going to be his contacts, and I have it readily available on one page. This is a template for that. And then the IEP binder, it's just a checklist of different things you can keep in there. In my case, because I'm aunt, I know I'm going to be faced with a challenge when I become legal guardian because I'm the aunt and not the parent, So for me, I started building it because I know I'm going to have to justify to a judge why should he go to you and not the siblings, kind of thing. So I did it more for that, but then it ended up just being useful. I carry my binder everywhere I go. These are my copies. You want to make copies, you can get it from here, but everything's there, all documentation of diagnosis and things like that. And then this is just another link to resources on how to navigate IEP meetings, real useful. And then this is Angel. So this is a 2-page document that I created for him. So he has a lot of disabilities. He came to me with just hydrocephalus. That's it. But then I knew something else was wrong. So now he has intellectual disability. He has autism, nonverbal communication, a lot of things that were developed after I got him. And I guess my biggest fear was always, I'm going to forget to tell them something because it was just so much. And then I always had to address a question, well, where's mom? Why do I have to talk to you? Your aunt. Well, Angel, I got him in my life when he was 7. He's 16 now. He lost both of his parents when he was 7. First, my brother-in-law passed away, and 7 months later, my sister. They left behind 5 kids, all between the ages of 7 and 21. I took in 3 boys, 7, 15, and 16. And he's with me now. The boys stayed with me till they graduated high school, 18 and 19. They moved out. They're still very active in their life, but they weren't in the right position to care for him. I've never been married. I don't have kids. I have my house. I was in a better place to care for them. So, and then I'm also a caregiver to my mom who has Alzheimer's. So between us, we formed a team and we're raising Angel. And we've learned a lot. But this document, this was the first document I created before the 1-page profile. It has helped me so much, and teachers really appreciate it because it talks about all, the triggers, how to work with me. He is nonverbal communicator, but there are some words like, if I say this, this is what I mean, kind of thing. And I linked the page here to the full document, so you guys are free to use that. And now we talk about the research study that we're doing. So if you haven't stopped by our table, we do have information there, but we were fortunate enough to get granted a grant to help support families in Texas that have kids with 7 years or younger that have suffered a brain injury. So the main idea is family-centered learning. Right now, I'm the promotora. I'm the one that does the sessions with parents, and they are bilingual sessions if people ask. But the idea is that it's peer-to-peer mentorship, somebody that is a caregiver themselves and has gone through it. And we just basically give them practical tools and strategies. So parents will get a curriculum. That is what we go through the 6 sessions. It's for 6 weeks, 1 session a week for 1 hour. And then at the end, you do get compensated $100, and it helps us with our research. And then the neat thing is that parents also get a caregiver companion workbook. So the curriculum's a little bit more lengthy. It has all the resources, but the workbook, it has QR codes and digital resources that you can just have handy if you go to meetings and things like that. And we review things like IEP, 504 parents, mental health. So when we started this program, it was just 4 sessions. And we went with our first set of parents, and based on feedback, we actually added 2 more sessions, so now it's 6. So we do look at the feedback and improve it, for parents coming into the program. So these are the 6 sessions that we have in the program. Once again, it's for ages 7 or younger. If you're interested, which your kiddo would qualify, because he's in the age, you can stop by the CBIRT table. My colleague Stephanie is there right now. Or this is actually the primary researcher that is doing the study. But it's a great program, caregiver to caregiver support. This is a little bit more about the study. To start off with, you get $25. You do the initial survey, and then when you're done with the 6 weeks, you get the remainder of the $75. And then we are actually partnered with Texas A&M University, UT Austin, so it is a partnership among several schools. I'm really excited because the first one, it was just in Bexar County in San Antonio. Second grant we got, they opened it up to all of Texas, and I'm hoping we can go national eventually. But really, really good program. And I actually met one of the parents that I facilitated sessions with here at the conference. So staying connected, so I'm going to turn it over to Melaney. A lot of really good free resources online. We are not excluding, if you're not from Texas, there's a lot of free resources online. I'll let you tell.
I just want to say too, Esmeralda's a caregiver. I've been in the trenches in school, so that's why we came together. And I think as a young speech pathologist, I didn't always get how parents were feeling. And I said, now, at my age, I wish I could bring my interns in to see how the parents function. What is that like to live with a child with a brain injury? I didn't get it before. I get it now. But I can't say enough, those 1-pagers when you're in schools, all about me, and update them. I can't stress that enough, because when that student transitions to the next school, the next grade, we need to know that. What's the trigger? Like Esmeralda said, what's the trigger? What's their communication like? What accommodations work? So important. So if you could kindly do that. And then when we talked about the IEP binder, I like paper still at my age. But anyway, if you have a OneDrive, just scan all of those documents in there, but never think that any document is not important. Because when you look for other services down the road, you're going to need those documents, okay? So keep those progress reports, anything from the doctor, because you want to share that with the school. We want to keep that communication alive and well. And like Esmeralda said, those free apps, I mean, during COVID, we use Seesaw and Class Dojo, so valuable. Everybody's busy, but we can send a text. And as a speech path during COVID, I would push out extra credit speech therapy assignments on Seesaw. So very valuable, and gee whiz, they're $0.00, right? So, okay. So what do we have else that we do with CBIRT? We are very proud of our webinar schedule, and they are free. We've got several fine folks from Canada is coming up in December. My friend Catherine Wiseman, she's going to speak about justice-involved youth and traumatic brain injury. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of adolescents, or children, get that TBI and then spiral into a life of crime and drugs and alcohol. So we want to avoid that. We've got a lot of screening tools out there, a lot of resources, and they will speak to that. Dr. Naz, I call her, because her last name is difficult to pronounce. She'll be speaking about concussions in adolescents. She's from Dallas area, and she's pretty amazing. And then we brought our own Dr. Trevor Hall, who's a neuropsych from Oregon Health Sciences University. He'll be speaking. And again, these are all free. And Dr. Berenice de la Cruz from San Antonio, she'll be speaking to that caregiver to caregiver supporting families of young children curriculum that Esmeralda talked about. So again, they're all free. Scan this. Okay, So webinars. We also want, I can't say this enough, the communication between the educational and the medical communities. Everybody keeps talking, right? Communication is the key. So I said to myself one day, if I'm going to say that, then I need to walk the walk. So I started this educational medical seminar. It's at 9 o'clock CST, your time, 7 a.m. my time in Oregon. It's designed to strengthen that collaboration between educators and medical professionals. So we bring in a speaker. So if you scan this, you're registered for all of them. And I'll get the schedule up here in a jiffy. Last month, we had a speech pathologist. Next month, we'll have a medical professional. So we alternate. We have 30 minutes of presentation. Then we open it up to really good questions. You can unmute yourself and ask those relevant questions. Great ideas have come from there. And we've decided on some really cool research studies that have a need as well. So give that a listen. Many parents are on there, many survivors. We have people from other countries too hopping on too. So very cool. We all learn together, right? We're lifelong learners. Okay, here's that schedule. So Taryn Townsend is in the building right now, and she will be presenting to us on December 3rd, and she is in the PICU at Texas Children's Hospital. She's a speech pathologist. She's going to talk about what it's like to be in the PICU and then transitioning back to the school. So pretty cool. A lot of good speakers here. We have a school nurse talking to us, and then Patricia Reyna is one of our colleagues. Her husband was a police officer that was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour a couple of days before Thanksgiving years ago, and then sustained a moderate to severe brain injury and changed their lives forever. So his wife, Kay, has dedicated her life to working with caregivers, because as you all know, caring for a child with a brain injury is very taxing. Okay, here's our website, a special tab just especially for Texas. We've a lot of tools, events coming up. If you go to the Learning tab, there are special tabs for parents, good ideas, probably 52 tabs for educators too, specific to Texas, okay? So take a peek at that. You might share that with this couple back here. Sorry, I'm pointing at you. No. You might share that website with your child's school as well. I am always open to any questions anytime. That's my job. I'm a Texas school liaison. I've written thousands of IEPs in my career. And at one point, they also made me the 504 coordinator in my building. So I've written hundreds of 504s, been there, done that. Happy to help, okay? My goal is never an us against them. It's let's all come together, because what's our goal? Making sure the student is successful, okay? All right, so that's your website. I also started a podcast, and that was out of my comfort zone. But by golly, has it been fun. My first podcast with one Tim Siegel, Team Luke Hope for Minds. He was my first, and that was amazing. And then he said to me, could you be on mine? So a month later, I was on his podcast. So many fine folks. We have Shaken Baby Alliance from Fort Worth. That was very taxing to record that episode. That really hurt my heart that someone would shake a baby so violently. Okay, lived experience with first responders. So Ben Utek from the Indianapolis Colts, he recorded a podcast with me. He sustained 5 concussions after he won the Super Bowl and then had to quit football. So wrote a lovely book. Deb Harper from San Antonio, her husband sustained a brain injury. He was in the military. He was 1 year from retiring from the military, was rear-ended in a car accident as well. And so she started the Alamo Head Injury Association. So that is a great, great support group, folks, okay? Okay, so you can see all of those. And our friend Victor Medina, TBI Warrior Foundation, also was in Afghanistan and sustained an injury. So give those a listen with more to come. Okay, so here are our social media sites. And again, we'll share these slides with you. Our references, our resources, TBI, SOS for Kids. Here's our website, Return to School, all hyperlinked. I like this website, Understood, Empowering People, Learning and Thinking, lots of little tools there. Give that a listen. Model Systems Knowledge Translation Center, and then our CDC, Center for Disease Control. Okay, all hyperlinked. Here's some advocacy and support systems specific to Texas. So just take a peek at those. And then again, I can't say enough support groups. We do not have enough. but there's several here. Team Luke has several, and then there's our online recovery assistance concussion for kids. Okay? Tell us what questions you have, folks.
Is there a law that says that you have, if you call an IEP meeting, they have 30 days, right? Is that just Florida or is that all states?
That is not all states.
Okay.
So, but yeah, when in doubt, just go ahead and Google that. Call me, I'll help you find that answer. When I worked in the schools, like Esmeralda said, when a parent says, I've got a concern, I want another IEP, just call the IEP. Don't fool around with it.
In my experience, immediately, like within 1 to 2 weeks, they already have the meeting set up. I've never had to research it because they've always been responsive for me. Has that been your experience?
When we enrolled in school, which is at the end of the last school year, I had written a letter, didn't get a response to the letter.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the school year, I took in the letter again and finally got a response. But I feel like they're moving pretty quickly.
I always say there's so many cutbacks. Yeah. So many cutbacks, and every state is hemorrhaging now in terms of education. So I think schools are doing the best they can and pinch hitting a lot. But yeah, within 2 weeks, let's get that IEP. Or just even come together, even if it's via a virtual platform like your Google Meet or whatever, Zoom. Let's get talking. What's the problem? Communication is the key. You don't want an adversarial relationship with your school. Nobody wins then, right? So let's all work together. Yeah. Any other questions?
What position is the best one to approach at the school? Like, are you going to the superintendent or?
Okay, good question. Great question. So I always like to bring it down now, right? So figure out who your case manager is in your building. Okay? I would start with that person and just say, okay, and if they don't return your phone calls and emails, just say, okay, this is my second time. And then I would go to the principal. Let's avoid the superintendent right off the bat, right? That's just my thinking, okay? You don't want to harm that relationship. But yeah, if someone's not responding to you, get after them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is my child. I need some action here. I can't wait a month, right? So you're assigned a case manager when you have the IEP or the 504. And then with this new ITAP, there's going to be a lead in your school. So you'll start with that person, okay? It's very important, and what Esmeralda talked about in that IEP binder, at the beginning of the school year, figure out who's in what position. Print that off, get that in your binder. Who's the counselor? Who's the ARD expert at all, okay? Have those numbers and emails handy dandy, because those are the folks you want to reach out to.
That contact list, the templates there, and they might be called different. I know at my school they're called diagnosticians.
Yeah,
So
I think they're the same.
that's
Yeah.
usually the case manager. But I have escalated where I CC the principal on it and definitely did get stuff done. So I have gotten to that
Yeah.
if needed. But, give them the benefit of the doubt and just go to the person you've been assigned.
I just really want you to look at the 10 steps for an ARD that our friend Anna Valdez created for a parent. It's very scary. I would say sustaining the TBI is going on a journey that no one wants to go on. But here we are for such a time as this. So she has some very good thoughts in there. Bring a friend with you. You are allowed to bring a friend to an ARD meeting with you. You may. Ask for copies. Okay? There's many steps in there. Can you think of another one in
Yeah,
there?
I always bring a child advocate with me. I found one she doesn't charge me, and she's been going to his art meetings since 7th grade, and he's in 10th grade now. It just helps, even though, obviously I'm well versed in this, I know but you forget in the moment. You have 14 people speaking to you, it can get intimidating. And then I always ask for my art meetings to be recorded.
Oh, good.
So always, so I'm okay with virtual meetings. I understand it's easier for them. I get it, but they already know. You invite this child advocate and you record all my meetings and you send me the link afterwards, and it holds them accountable. Yeah. And I did notice a change in tone when I started doing that. And it was because I didn't record them before, and just the tone in those meetings. And once I started recording, different tone. Yeah. And then if I forget to ask something, Tiffany, our child advocate, is there, and she'll ask additional things. And you're allowed to bring anybody you want.
Just peace of mind. And just when I look back at my career, I would walk into these meetings and think about, I've got all these things to do, so I'm going to whip through this meeting. now in hindsight, it's like, whoa, I should have taken my time and really listened. If you don't know what they're talking about and they're making, like the acronyms that Esmeralda talked about, ask. Tell me what that is.
Right.
No question is dumb, okay? Ask. Take that cheat sheet in with you too if you like, okay? So parent is the biggest part of this team. You have to live with your child for the rest of their days. We have them for, what is it? They say 5,000 days in the life of a child in public education. So, yeah. Yeah. Anything else? You can reach out to us anytime through CBIRT. As I said, we are a resource to at any time, even in Florida. Yeah,
I
yeah.
have your website saved. I just
Yeah.
went on there.
Excellent.
They're
excellent.
good, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We can do this. We can do this, folks, right? There's a lot of resources. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Okay? All right. All the best to you.
Thank you.